So in this tutorial we're going to take a look at building a very simple rig. Now there's something I want to point out before we build a rig, and that's where to place bones on a geometric model. So I'm going to go ahead and create a cylinder. And insert one subdivision. Now you always want to place a bone wherever there is a subdivision. So if I was going to make joints here, I'd select my skeleton tool and go to joint tool. And I'm holding shift here to keep it straight. And I hit enter. You always want to make sure that your joint, and that's this line here, is directly on any sort of subdivision. So I'm going to hold D down, I'm going to hit W and then hold D down, and it's going to move it up on this subdivision. Another thing I want to point out is how to loop areas of the body into, or joints into a body into a subdivision. So for example, whenever in a minute we're going to start to create our own skeleton. So what we want to do is first start with the root joint, hold D down to move it, then V, and then we can snap it. Or I'm sorry, D down then X, and we can snap it to a point in the grid. Now I don't simply create joints like this, where I select it and then I create joints going sort of following down the body. This root area still stays the primary focus point, but the problem is you get things that look like this. You see how our joint is sort of moving down the body? We don't want that. What we want is something that looks like this. We first create the joint. I'm going to hit enter to lock it in place. Then I'm going to hold D and X, and I'm going to snap it here. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create a leg coming off of that, and I'm holding shift. Now notice the difference between the way this moves. We always want to keep it straight up and down. So if I select the hip and I hold shift and I select that root and I hit P to parent, notice how this does not move in the direction of the hip. We want it to always look like this. So that's something else I want to point out. So this right here is wrong. And it would actually give us problems later when we go to add IK handles or orient or point controllers. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video now, start a fresh file, and then we're going to start to create our rig. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're in the front view. And we want to go to skeleton, joint tool, and I'm going to go ahead and just create a joint on this axis here, and I'm going to name it root. And then I'm going to hit G to redo last action. Sorry about that. Or actually, let's hit W, select this. I'm going to hold D and X. I'm going to snag that to the point here, just so that we have a center point here. I'm going to go back up to skeleton, select joint tool, and I'm going to create joints. So this would be my hip, my knee, my ankle, the center of my foot, and this would be the tip of my toes. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Select the hip, select the root, and hit P to parent. Now I'm going to go to perspective mode, and I'm actually going to right click, go to side view, and I'm going to position my joints so they look something like this. I'm going to hold D down, move this forward, holding D again. I'm going to place this at an angle like this. So this is my ankle, and this is sort of the area before my toes that I would actually bend off of the foot. And then here are my toes, and I'm paying attention to that line there. And what's essentially going to happen is this is going to go through the center of my character's body. These bones here, they would go through the center of the mesh, and here's my knee. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and name this L underscore hip, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy that L underscore. I'm going to name this L underscore knee, L underscore ankle, L underscore foot, and then this is just toe, L underscore toe. Now we don't actually skin anything to the toe. The next thing we're going to do is create an IK handle from here to here. So I'm going to go to skeleton, IK handle tool, and click the options, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on IK RP solver. This will allow us to create a pole vector handle. So I'm going to select the hip and then the ankle, and then we're going to test that. So by selecting the IK handle and moving it up, you can see that my knee bends straight up and down, and that's what you want. Okay, so let's go ahead and select this bone. We're going to go, to save us some time, we're going to go to Skeleton, Mirror Joint Tool. I'm going to expand that. We want to go YZ, which is across the Y, and on the Z axis, or across the Z and the Y axis. And I want to search for anything that has an L underscore in it, and I'm going to replace it with an R underscore. I'm going to go ahead and hit apply and then close this. What you'll notice is it copied over our IK handle, and it also placed an R in front of every one of our joints. Okay, so I'm going to go to the front view. And for my spine, I'm going to create 3 joints. So I'm going to hold Control and Shift and add my joint tool here, just so I have it. And I'm going to click here. Again, the reason I'm not hitting G, selecting this, and then drawing my joints is you see how it screws up the orientation of that joint? We don't want that. So I'm going to create a joint here. I'm going to click off of this, select my joint tool. I'm going to create a joint here, and normally this would be just below the sternum here, and this would be the center of my clav. Then I'm going to hit enter. Now this is not completely straight here, so I'm going to hold D and then X, and I'm going to snap this to the grid. Same thing here, D and X, I'm going to snap this to the grid, D and X, and snap it to the grid. Now just holding D down, I'm going to move this up. Again, I'm going to select the this joint here, and I'm going to just name this spine, and then spine underscore 01, and then I'm just going to name this C underscore clav, and that's the center clavicle. So I'm going to select this guy here, and I'm going to parent it back to the root, and by doing that you can see my root is still my primary and it didn't screw up the orientation. I'm going to go ahead and select my joint tool here. I'm actually going to create a clavicle bone here. This is my shoulder, this is my elbow, this is my wrist, and then a bone for the palm. Okay, so again I'm going to hold D here, and I'm just sort of snapping these to the placement on the grid. So I'll hold X, DX, and then DX, so they're all straight. So again, I'm going to name this L underscore shoulder. Or I'm sorry, L underscore clav. Let's go ahead and just copy all that here. And I'm going to name that clav. Shoulder. Elbow. Wrist, palm. Alright, now if I go to my perspective view, what I can do is select that shoulder, select that center clav, and hit P to parent. And then I'm just going to go to skin. Well, we're not going to mirror it just yet. So we want our clav, I'm just holding D here and I'm moving that forward. We want a little bend in our clavicle going this way, and we want our elbow to bend this way. Now for our hand, what we're going to do is jump to the top view, and I'm going to create the thumb, something that looks like this. Mind you, I did not connect this yet. I'm going to create my finger here, and again I'm just creating my pointer finger, my middle finger. Let's go ahead and straighten this out. Alright, I'm holding shift here to straighten this out, and then you can rotate it going off this way, and then just one more, and that's my pinky. And then what I'm going to do is shift select every one of these, and I'm going to move it up, because right now it drew it onto the ground. I'm going to move it up here, and I'm just checking that the center line of the hand is lined up with that. I'm going to go to my top view, select this, and then the palm, and parent it. I'm going to rotate this a little bit more, to kind of give me a little bit more space in my finger. Select this, hit P to parent, and so on, hit P to parent. And I'm going to parent this guy. Now if the fingers look too cumbersome, you can go ahead and select each one and just make them 0.1 for now, like decrease the radius so that you can see it a little bit better. But right now it doesn't really bother me. Alright, let's go ahead and select our clav here, and we're just going to do skeleton, mirror joint, and it should automatically rename it with R because it'll remember our last settings. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a neck and a head bone. So I'm just going to go here, create a neck, something like this, and then one for the top of the head. I'm going to go to my side view, and I'm going to hit skeleton here and create a jawbone. And notice how I'm making this jawbone separate, and then I'm going to parent it to the center just above the neck. I'm going to select this guy and parent that to my center clav, and I'm going to name this bone neck, name this bone head, and actually we need to have one more for the jaw because this is our jawbone, so we need to actually create a jaw bone, and this is really just a joint. So I'm going to go to my side view, and I'm going to move this sort of here. This would be like the hinge of the jaw, and this would be just where the jaw placement is. So like the tip of where the jaw is, I'm going to parent that. So when you go ahead and skin your character, you can actually rotate the jaw coming off that way. Okay. The last thing we're going to do is go ahead and build controllers for all of the bones, a master controller, and for the feet. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to create NURB circle, and I'm just going to create it at the base here. I'm going to go to my front view. I'm going to hit W and move this up. Then I'm going to hold the V key, and I'm going to snap it to that root and just check it in perspective that it's in the center. I'm going to hit Control D, move it up, hold V, snap it, Control D, hold V, snap it, Control D, hold V, snap it up here. I'm going to go to my front view, and what I can do with each one of these is sort of just scale them down. They're a little big. Alright, now I'm going to select this guy. Alright, we'll just select this guy, it doesn't really matter. Hit Control D. I'm going to move it up here, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Oop, let's do that on do we want X? No, we want Z. Rotate it on Z. Okay, I'm going to hit R, scale this down, and then I'm going to hit Control D, sort of move this over. I'm holding V while I do this. Control D again, I'm holding V. Alright, and let's go to our perspective view and make sure that they're snapping along the bones. This one isn't, so I'm going to hold V and make sure it snaps here. Same thing with this guy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this a few more times. Let's go to our front view. Alright, right now we have all this extra information on every one of these joints. So actually let's duplicate this one more time, and I'm going to go ahead and move that down and then hold X so that it snaps to our grid here, and I'm going to hit R to scale that up. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to freeze transform on all of these, and what that does is that cleans up all the attributes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select all of these guys and go to Modify Freeze Transform, and then just double check it. Click on a few random ones and you'll see they're all zeroed out. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is select that, then my root, and I'm going to do a constrain, I want to make sure maintain offset for point is on. I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to constraint orient. I'm going to open that up and make sure maintain offset is checked on. What that'll do is that won't constrain the offset of the circle to the root. So I'm going to hit apply and close. So now when I move this, you notice that the root moves with it, and if I hit E, the skeleton moves with it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and tear off my constraint here. Select Q, and then really quickly click on point and orient, and I'm just going to go up the body. Point, orient. And I'm doing that for every one of the joints that we created the NURB circles for. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and do that. Okay, so right now I went ahead and created these NURB circles for everything. So if I select each one, you'll notice that there's one for each bone. And if you click on each NURB circle, it'll tell you what it controls. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that when I move this NURB circle here, it moves all of the top ones with it. Or when I rotate this NURB circle here, it doesn't just rotate independently, it rotates everything down the stack. So what we're going to do is just sort of work our way down and through into the root. So I'm going to select the one that's for my wrist, and then select my elbow and hit P to parent. And all I'm doing is selecting this one and moving down. So I select this, holding shift, select the next one, hitting P, and then I click off. Again, and if you know you did this right, because if you select it, it'll select all the ones before it. Alright, P to parent, and select this guy, P to parent, and then you can test it. If I rotate this now, all the ones above it rotate. If I rotate this one, all the ones above it rotate that way. And then for my root, I'm just going to select my master controller, which doesn't have any transforms frozen, so I'm going to make sure that I freeze transform on that. And again, I want to make sure though that my master controller is sort of lined up with my feet. So actually that's pretty good there. Alright, so I'm going to select this, and I'm going to parent it to my master controller. So now when I move this guy, my whole character will move. Doesn't look like I parented this to here. So let's test it again. There we go. Now the next thing I want to do is create 2 more circles for the feet so that I don't have to keep selecting my IK handles to move it. So I'm going to go to create NURBS primitive circle. I'm going to draw it onto the floor. Now what I'll do normally is I'll move it up, hold V, and I'll snap it to my ankle, and then I'll hit Control D, move it over, hold V, and snap that to my other ankle. So I'll select both of these circles. Now I'm going to hold X and just move them down to the grid. So something that looks like this. So I'm going to go ahead and select that first NURB circle, then select this and hit P to parent. Same thing here, hit P to parent. Now when I move that root down, what I get is the feet lock in place. Now what you're noticing also is the toes sort of cut through the floor. So a trick is I can go to Skeleton, IK Handle Tool, select my ankle and then my toe, and hit enter. I'll do that again for the other side. Select my ankle, then my toe, and then what I do is select this IK handle and I parent it to that foot. Select this IK handle and I parent it to that foot. So now when I move his root down, his feet lock in place and he can leap and land. And if I want to animate anything, because these are essentially, looks like I forgot to freeze this, you want to make sure that you freeze yours, but if we go to animate this, I can kind of move this around. And now I can set keys for that. Okay. So that concludes the basic rig video. But make sure, just as sort of a touch-up, you want to make sure that you freeze transforms on everything so you don't have anything that looks like that. You want to make sure that it looks like this.